Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Ifeni. Great Malabite.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Victoria Tundu MKO Abiola.
Good morning.
Yes. This oxblood, they call it?
Yes, that's one of the names for it.
Yes, one of the names. Okay, we'll just move on. Let's start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story. Lagos White Paper rips apart panel's report on NSAS. Accepts 11 of 32 recommendations. Rejects 1. Agrees on 6 with modifications. Sends 14 to federal government. Yes, Sanwo-Olu will bring closure to the painful episode. Now, the quote there in the front page, the inconsistencies and contradictions in the entire Judicial Panel of Inquiry report concerning the number of persons who died at Lekki Toll Gate on 20th October 2020 and their cause of death rendered the JPI's findings and conclusions thereon as totally unreliable and therefore unacceptable. Yes, Sanwo-Olu will bring closure to the painful episode. Yes, the white paper is out. Of course, that was preceded by the speech or address by the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, where he was calling for peace. Now, the Vanguard newspaper has a story also. White paper, Lagos State government overrules NSAS panel report. Panel legally considered, Sanwo-Olu says leaked report opened old wounds. Keep mum on white paper. No, invites files, Seun Kuti. No, I think they were a bit late to that story. Now, the Daily Independent also reporting this story. NSAS, Lagos rejects panel's report on death of 9 persons. Governor Sanwo-Olu invites youths for peace work. While the Daily Trust newspaper reporting this story, NSAS, no killing at Lekki Toll Gate, Lagos counters panel. That's not what the white paper is saying. The white paper is saying 3 people died at the toll gate, 1 from bullet wound. So the Daily Trust newspaper headline is clearly wrong on that. But we have heard the white paper, and some may want to argue was the Lagos State government browbeaten by the federal government in the campaign ahead of the release of the white paper. Well, that in itself is a matter of conjecture. Is a white paper always a reflection of truth? It's also a question that must be answered. Of course, we've had cause on this program to question a white paper. Recall, in the case of the first inquiry at the Lagos University of Lagos, where the chairman of that panel came out to disown or criticize the white paper. I don't expect Justice Doris Okobi to be an activist, but I know judges are very prudent and courteous in their attitude. So perhaps we'll just leave it at that. But as Sanwo-Olu, the governor, is expecting, can we bring foreclosure to this matter? Will the peace is seeking be peace of the graveyard or peace that is genuine? All that, as we continue to chew on the white paper and the report of that panel, the white paper on the report of the Judicial Panel of Inquiry. But if only agents of the federal government had just waited for the Lagos State government to come out with this white paper before they make their intervention. But as it stands, they've been serious campaign towards a particular end, and the white paper seems to have tallied with that postulations that there was a phantom massacre. But we'll just move on to other stories. I'm sure in the weeks, in the days ahead, Lagos State officials will still have more questions to answer or more explanations to make as to the recommendations they have accepted, the ones they have rejected, the ones they have modified, and the ones they are sending to the federal government. Now, we look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper, Nigeria's The Guardian newspaper. Subsidy removal won't spike inflation, says World Bank. Data contradicts Shaduri's argument. Social scheme doesn't benefit majority of poor people. Nigeria top tables of all wrong data. Economy cannot grow faster with business as usual management approach. Of course, the World Bank country director for Nigeria, Shuam Shaduri, yesterday made this categorical declaration when he spoke extensively on the planned removal of petroleum motor spirit, PMS, the lingering foreign exchange crisis, rising sovereign debt, and other macroeconomic issues waiting in there. The country director of the World Bank. Now, the Punch newspaper, compulsory vaccination, workers demand March deadline. Trunk centers, federal government insists on December 1. Our letter of March extension will get to government today, says ASCSN. We are not contemplating any extension after December 1 deadline. PSA, security operatives bar workers without face masks from government buildings. I think government should just go ahead and enforce its rules. Those who are yet to take, well, they should just go and queue up, take their vaccines. When they do, they have access to government buildings. That is my take. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper, 2021 budget, ICPC uncovers 257 phony projects worth 20 billion. Buhari furious, vows to sanction corrupt public servants. Year in, year out, we hear of this kind of situation where budgets sent to the National Assembly, you have all kinds of discrepancies. In this case, ICPC uncovered as much as 257 phony projects worth 20 billion. Some projects repeated in a number of agencies and ministries. The Business Day newspaper, MTN to give investors 1 share for every 20 bought. MTN Group will give retail investors 1 share for every 20 shares they buy and hold for at least 12 months during a share sale this week, according to Kari Toriola, the Chief Executive Officer of MTN. Now, the Leadership newspaper, Health Insurance, Poor Services put 12 million patients at odds with hospitals, HMOs. Hospitals treat us with substandard drugs, subscribers. We can't go beyond amount approved by HMOs, hospitals. Our branded drugs will address enrollees' concerns, says NHIS. Well, this is not good news for the health insurance system in Nigeria, because this has been major complaints of some subscribers where patients go to the hospital and they don't feel well treated compared to patients who come to the same hospitals and pay cash. That is not good for the system. If health insurance has to work, then it has to be top-notch, that when you have the health insurance, you go to the hospital, you get the best of treatment, not substandard because you are not paying cash. Investigation, New Telegraph newspaper investigation, 26,297 terror suspects, family members surrender in 4 months as military steps up counter-insurgency war. Exhaustion, cause of surrendering, according to a retired commander. Now, if we look at the foreign newspapers quickly, the Times of UK, Prime Minister pledges booster jabs for 23 million by next month. Boris Johnson, yes, is saying by next month they are throwing everything at the COVID-19 vaccination to protect against the Omicron variant. And as he puts it, every adult in England will be able to book for a booster by the end of January. But the Daily Telegraph is also adding another dimension. New COVID restrictions to last until March next year. MPs raise fears of Omicron pandemic as self-isolation rules are written into law for 4 months. Yes, if you come in contact with somebody with the Omicron variant of the coronavirus, then you have to isolate for 10 days. Failure to do so, you pay a fine for as much as £10,000.
And we all know where the Telegraph leans politically.
Ruben Rufai and Tunde.
We know where they lean politically and why they're stressing the massive inconvenience it's going to cause. And also the other headline on the Daily Telegraph this morning about the 740,000 cases of cancer that might have gone undetected, which is actually really awful. But we all know the little editorial bias.
I mean, it's the Telegraph.
Exactly.
It's the Telegraph, yeah.
Well, generally in the UK, about 22 cases have been established. But as is the case in the United States, you'll find also that the authorities in the United Kingdom are trying to downplay the situation, if I may use that phrase. And you have the Prime Minister holding that press conference yesterday. As you've already pointed out, yes, you've identified some of the things he talked about. One, if you come into contact with anybody who has, contracted the Omicron variant, you are required to isolate for 10 days or pay, or you may be fined £10,000. Yes, 33 Tory MPs are against this. They think it's, an unnecessary abbreviation of people's freedom, what they call the pandemic. But the bigger issue, of course, is the contradiction, as I pointed out, between what the Prime Minister said, saying, look, feel free, organize your Christmas visits, have your nativity place, Christmas is setting. And what the head of the UK Health Agency said, who said, look, people should be very careful in terms of getting themselves exposed to socializing situations, and that if any particular event is not necessary, you pull back. And people have been harping on that to say, the Prime Minister is saying one thing, a senior health official is saying another thing. But what is clearly certain is the plan by the United Kingdom to engage in rapid vaccination. 5,000 per day, about 32,000 per week, about 23 million persons, adult population to be vaccinated, either with booster vaccines by the end of January. The other leg of the measures being adopted in the United Kingdom is a promise to give GPs, per vaccination between £15 and £30 in order to encourage them. And the Prime Minister is calling out the army. About 400 troops, will also be brought in to support. And one newspaper referred to that as Omicron. Now, what is the purpose of all this storytelling? It is simply that in some other countries, we've seen concrete steps being taken, even beyond the restriction, the travel bans, and there's also a plan B in place. Should hospitalization rates go up, some of these countries may have no option but to impose further restrictions. But at this moment, in the UK and the US, that is not the case. Why I say, what is the purpose, is the question of what are we doing here in Nigeria. I have not seen yet, very concrete steps, apart from those, general recommendations contained in the statement by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. But the head of the NCDC will be joining us shortly. Maybe he will be able to give us the Nigerian dimension. And then there was a story in one of the papers saying that subsidy removal may not necessarily result in inflation.
Yes, that's the Guardian newspaper. It's the World Bank country director that is making that claim.
Well, I don't know what gives that World Bank director that confidence. Because if you sell pump price of fuel at up to 340 naira per litre, I don't have to be an economist to know that there will be a knock-on effect.
Well, the Bretton Woods institution, they have a way of misleading third world countries.
Anyway, thank you very much, Emmanuel Fenning.